Today is the 31st of October 2022. Now is the time to train our minds, to develop our minds to be better and higher, to bring them to peace and collectedness. The mind that's peaceful and collected in samadhi is secluded from all the sense impressions, from the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind. These six senses which receive their respective sense objects of sound, taste, sight, touch, smell, and mind objects. And it's the nature of the mind, having received these sense impressions, to have liking or disliking for them, to have a sense of self arise, a sense of me and mine, then proliferation in the mind based on these sense impressions, giving rise to the five aggregates. And the knowing element clings to these five aggregates as self. And if we contemplate that this quality of delusion, of greed, aversion, and delusion, when did it first arise in our lives? Since we were born, when did greed, aversion, and delusion arise? So we contemplate and we see that we were born as a child. This feeling of self arose, that this mind, this knowing element, felt that there was a self, that one had a self. The feeling that this body was mine and me. There's a feeling in the heart. And so this is the quality of delusion being born in the heart ever since then. And at this early stage, as a young child, and there wasn't a lot of mental proliferation because the brain had yet to develop. There was a feeling of self there. There's also liking, disliking, feeling of me and mine, of self. So it arose right here. The kilesas were born right there. So we see that greed, aversion, and delusion are born very easily, and then they pass away as well. And they weren't yet firmly established. They weren't stuck in the mind yet, because the brain hadn't yet developed. But as the memory developed and increased, the sense of self became more and more as well, all the way up till the present day. So if we don't train our minds, then the mind proliferates like this, proliferates in meritorious ways and demeritorious ways. Sometimes one lacks mindfulness and speaks without the quality of morality or virtue, and thinks to harm others, or thinks to acquire pleasure from sensuality. So if we train our minds, at least we'll have less delusion arise. At least there'll be less darkness arising in the mind. We can also say at least the darkness won't increase, or it won't increase a lot. But if we don't train the mind, then the darkness increases, the quality of delusion increases. So we practice generosity. This helps our minds. We practice to be established in virtue. And even with virtue, it's normal for the mind states of greed, aversion, and delusion to arise. We practice to know them as they arise, to know them in time. Venerable Ajahn compared it to having a tiger in a cage. If we don't give the tiger food and water, then the tiger will be weak and without energy. So we see that we have the kilesas, but we practice not to follow them, and then their energy decreases. And when we do this, then our training in mindfulness and samadhi becomes easier. So we bring our minds to be firmly established in this, and the mind can realize momentary collectedness, khanika samadhi, or neighborhood collectedness, or upajjhara samadhi. Then the mind can give rise to wisdom, and that which we're lost and deluded by, we see it clearly according to truth. And we're able to accept the truth of conditioned formations. We understand how they are, and we accept that. We see that they just have arising, staying for a little while, and ceasing. That there's no me or mine, you or yours, no self there to be found. We have wisdom to know this. And if we don't train, we don't have the opportunity to know this, then we only have the sense of self. A sense of self that ages, a sense of self that gets sick, a sense of self that dies. It's just self only, because we haven't learned yet. So that which is arising in the mind, being born in the mind, is just the sense of self. So we have to train and practice in wisdom to know conditioned formations clearly, to know them thoroughly, to reduce the defilements in the mind, to make them thinner. In the beginning, we change our view, because the view that we've been lost in for a very long time is this view of self. So we change the view to the view of not self, not me, not mine, not you or yours. See that this body is just composed of the four natural elements, and others' bodies are also composed of these same four elements. We bring the mind to peace and collectedness, to contemplate the body, that it's not a being, not a me or mine, not a self. This is seeing the Dhamma. And this wisdom arises by virtue of samadhi. And samadhi arises by virtue of sila, morality. This is sila, samadhi, panya. And the quality of mindfulness is there as well, having mindfulness and wisdom. And we look at that which is an old friend of our mind. That which is an old friend is this quality of liking for sense objects, having the sense of self, having anger, ill will, love, hate, fear, attraction, aversion, delusion, proliferation, busyness of mind, sleepiness, agitation, and doubt, which is a kind of delusion. And all these qualities cover over the mind to make it not peaceful. So we need to train the mind to make mindfulness firmly established, to make samadhi firmly established, to bring the mind to peace and collectedness, to take the 5 hindrances out of the mind. And when we do this, then we can breathe with great ease and spaciousness and relaxedness. Then we can think and contemplate. We think about these forms that we're deluded by, that we think are beautiful. And we ask, well, where is that beauty to be found? So contemplate this point. So we have hair, skin, nails, hair of the head, hair of the body, teeth. And if we think if we just let these things go, if we don't bathe, we don't shower, we don't brush our teeth, if we don't wash our clothes, then what is it like? Clothing is clean before we put it on, but then when it becomes in contact with the body, it becomes dirty. So contemplate like this to see it clearly. And when one sees clearly, the mind feels full and content. So contemplate the body. Contemplate the body in the body, and also contemplate what is this body composed of. We see it's covered on the outside by hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, and skin. And on the inside there's many organs, both big and small. So we contemplate that inside the body it's nothing but unclean things only. The breath goes in and out. And there's all these different organs in the body. So contemplate like this. Contemplate this a lot. Contemplate it often. If we can have some visual image arise, then this is good. Some image of a body part. We use this as a meditation object. And it's something that monastics contemplate all the time. These parts of kesa, loma, danta, naka, tacho, or hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, and skin. That which covers the body on the outside. So we contemplate to see these clearly. And when we see that they're not beautiful, the mind becomes beautiful. Samadhi can then be well established. We see that the body is just these four elements of earth, air, fire, and water. We see that it's empty. So we understand right here. We see emptiness. We see it's not self, just like this. This is the benefit of wisdom arising, coming from samadhi, well established, coming from virtue. And this virtue gives energy to the practice, and wisdom arises according to samadhi, according to effort, and with mindfulness as well. So we have these 5 powers that take the mind to know and see the Dhamma. It's something that we must have and practice. We sit and walk meditation. We wake up early in the morning. We practice consistently and evenly. We do this to develop the mind, train the mind to be better, not to just let the mind go to follow after moods and sense impressions, which is something we've let the mind do for many years already. So we know ourselves already. We set our hearts to train our minds to know and see the Dhamma in this very life. And if we have even more spiritual virtues, then we can contemplate the body, to see it clearly, to bring the mind to greater peace and collectedness. Then wisdom can know and see clearly, can see the Dhamma, to realize the Dhamma, to realize purity and freedom. So if we have samadhi just a little bit, and we contemplate that things are uncertain, they're unsure, they're impermanent, we see that they're not self. And so this is the path that we walk, to take the mind to know and see the Dhamma. So may you set your hearts on this.